They don't want what we know out there.
How a person can go from really almost nothing to becoming a millionaire by owning rental properties.
He would always buy these flip houses, and I just remember thinking, this guy is crazy. Why would he buy that house?
In the past decade, there's been a huge surge in the peer-to-peer short-term rental market.
Become an insider. So you have to know the rules before you get the game.
Every second counts. So make every second count.
Welcome to the Real Estate Jam. Whether you're just beginning or the best of the best, we're glad you're here. We will share successes, failures, and strategies for the action-taking real estate investor. And now to your hosts, JD and Melissa.
Hi guys, welcome to the Real Estate Jam podcast. I'm JD with my wonderful co-host.
Hello.
Melissa.
Hello, JD.
Hey, how you doing?
Great, thanks.
Hey, I am super excited for our show today. This guest is amazing. I've seen him in all the circles from when I very first started listening to podcasts. I think a guy named Matt Terrio started to mention this mythical figure, David Dodge, on his podcast, and so I'm super excited to get to talk to you today, David. David's the one of the most energetic and exciting people that we've had on the show. So we're happy to do that. He's been investing in real estate for 20 plus years, has experienced wholesaling, fix and flipping, BRRRRing, which we'll get into in a little bit, runs a company called House Sold Easy. David, thanks for coming on our show today. We're really excited to talk to you.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, guys. This is great. I love podcasting. My goal today is to just provide as much value to your audience as possible. I talk a lot. I'll warn you now. So feel free to cut me off if you ask me a question and it just goes on and on and on. Again, the goal is to provide as much value, and I'm just super happy to be here. I'm very grateful for the both of your time today. So thank you. Yeah,
absolutely. So for our audience members that maybe haven't heard about you or don't know who you are and what you're about, can you give us just kind of the rundown of why they should be listening to you and taking some of the advice that you're going to provide today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of you guys has got a ringing phone on the desk. It's vibrating. I can hear it. No big deal. Just
Not
letting
me.
You know. Either way, hey, that means somebody's getting deals sent to them. That's good news, right? So yeah, again, thanks for having me, guys. I'll keep it short. I've been investing. I'm 37 years old. I started when I was 20. So I've been in the game for, 17 going on 18 years. And the first 10 years that I did it it's very, very passively. I was buying one rental property a year. In fact, the very first one was a house hacking play. Bought a house, rented out the other rooms. Did that 2 or 3 more times while I was in college at the age of, 20, 21, 22. And then after college, I had a bunch of various jobs doing sales and marketing, as well as was an entrepreneur and, had a couple small businesses selling products online and just random things, right? And essentially what I'm getting at, though, is the first 10 years I was an investor, but I was a passive investor. And in fact, it took me 10 years to get up to 12 properties, which is pretty decent. It's not terrible.
Sure.
But now we can buy, 8, 10, 12 in a month on a good month, right? So I've been full-time at the game now for 7 going on 8 years. And I started full-time, after 10 years of just being slow and working for other people, and decided, I'm going to do this for myself and I need to learn more about it. So I kind of discovered wholesaling and direct-to-seller marketing and did a bunch of that. And, basically the first 3 to 4 years while I was full-time, that was at the age of 37, almost 8 years ago. That's all I did was market, and I just focused on wholesaling. And, about 3 to 4 years ago at this point, right, after 3 or 4 years of doing that, I was like, you know what? I started investing as a landlord, and then I pivoted over to wholesaling, and I need to bring it back, right? So I stopped making wholesaling my first objective, and I still do a lot of wholesaling, but now it's plan B. Right. So what I've been up to for the last, let's call it 4 years, is building my rental portfolio, buying rentals, also buying some fix and flips, but rentals are really number one to me. And I've been using a simple strategy called the BRRRR method to do it with very, very, very little of my own money, often cases, none of my own money. And as I sit today, I'm 37 years old. I'm out of St. Louis, Missouri. I got 60 plus single family homes in my portfolio. I got another 30 units of apartments. So roughly 90 units in the portfolio. Portfolio spits off about 20 grand a month in passive income, cash flow. And my passion at this point is just to help and teach other people how amazing the BRRRR method is.
Sure. I think, BRRRR method, that is something that was just a flashy term that came out a few years ago. The first time I heard it was from Bigger Pockets and Brandon Turner talking about doing that. I know people had been doing it beforehand, but when it became such a flashy word, people just thought that it was easy to go out and acquire these properties that you can do 100% BRRRR out of. And I'm wondering if you can talk to us a little bit about how you decide whether or not it'll make a good BRRRR strategy. Are you pulling 100% of your purchase and rehab funds back out of it after you do the refinance? Or maybe let's just start out with explaining what the BRRRR method is, but then go into the way that you are using it and acquiring deals now.
I'm excited. I can't wait. I love all this stuff, guys and girls. This is great. Okay, so here's the thing. BRRRR method is an acronym. It's B with 4 R's. It can even have 3 R's, and I'll explain the difference there, but it's an acronym. And all it is a strategy that us real estate investors use to acquire assets with little to no money rapidly. So I know that's kind of a long definition, but it's just a strategy to acquire assets. And the goal is to use little to none of our own money. And if you want to do 1 or 2, that's great. Or you want to do 10 at a time like me, that's fine too. So acronym B, 4 R's. The B stands for buy. And then the 4 R's stand for rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. So you don't even need that 4th R if you just want to do 1. But if you want to do over and over and over again, you'll have that 4th R, right? So that's what it is. Okay. The other question you asked was, how do I use it? Well, I don't like to use any of my own money when I'm buying rentals. In fact, the goal is to be all in at $0 out of pocket. So how do you do that? How do you achieve that? Well, we embrace and love leverage. That's how. So we go to a hard money or a private money lender and borrow money to buy the property and to rehab it. So first things first, market direct to sellers, find discounted deals.
Sure. Find
people that have problems, right? And then offer to help solve those problems by saying, hey, I'll buy this property off of you. And the more distressed the property is, oftentimes the better, because the better deal we'll get on it. Sure. But first and foremost, before we even continue, I don't pay retail. I did that for 10 years and I bought 12 houses, and I've done about 700 or 800 transactions since then. And I haven't paid retail for a property since. So multiple hundred deals that we've done, over the last 7 years. We don't pay retail, and you shouldn't either.
Yes.
So we start by buying properties at a discount or locating deals that we can get at a discount. Then we find a private or hard money lender to lend us 100% of the purchase, and ideally 100% of the rehab, and in some cases 130% of the rehab, just so we can put a little bit of money in our pocket. Right. But that's the ideal situation. None of our own money is going to be invested. So then we take that money that we borrow, we buy the discounted property, and then we rehab it. And these two things combined make a magical combination, because when we're buying at a discount, we're capturing equity. And when we rehab the property, ideally, we're going to increase the value above and beyond what we spend on the rehab. So if we spend, let's say, 20 grand, we're hoping that the property will increase in value by 30, right? So we're going to capture equity on the discounted buy, and we're going to increase equity when we fix that property up. And then the next couple steps are relatively easy. We are going to rent that property out, and then we're going to take it to a bank, a long-term lender, which is typically going to be a local bank or a local credit union. And there's some other bigger players that are national now. But the main thing here to know and learn is that we're not going through Bank of America, Chase, US Bank, Wells Fargo. We're avoiding the big banks. Ideally, we work with the small local banks, and there's a reason, there's a strategy there. And we can talk about that a little later. But we go and we refinance the property. So we're not asking the bank for a loan to buy. And that's what I did in the beginning, right? 10 years, 12 properties. Every time I would find a retail property on the MLS with an agent friend, and I would say, hey, let's get this one. Bank would give me an 80% loan. I had to bring 20% to the table.
Yep.
And that was typically 20 or $30,000. You know, $150,000 property, 20% is 30 grand. That's slow. Not a bad approach, but it's not a good approach either. It's slow. So what we do with the BRRRR method is we use the equity that we gain from the discount, or that we acquire and capture from the discounted purchase, and the equity that we're going to gain from the rehab. And if those two things combined get us 20% equity in the deal, after we rent it out and we go to that local bank or credit union to refinance, we're going to be able to now use that equity as our skin in the game. So before, I was having to put down 20%. Well, check it out. I'm still putting down 20%, but it's not coming from my pocket. Instead, it's coming from my efforts. That's the big difference there, right? So we're still buying properties and, you know, doing this, acquiring rentals, but we are doing it a little bit differently, where we're borrowing the money to buy and fix. We actually do fix, then we rent, then we go to the bank. And now we're not asking that bank for a purchase. We're asking them for a refi, and they're going to say, hey, no problem. We're going to send our appraiser out and we'll lend you 80%, Dave, of what it appraises for. So check it out. If I'm all in at or below 80% of what it appraises for, because I bought it at a discount and I upgraded it, and the bank's going to lend me 80% of what it appraises for, I can acquire that asset in the end with no money, zero, not a dollar out of pocket.
And then you're paying back either your hard money or your private money lender. So now they have those funds and they want that return. So they're going to give it back to you on the next one. And that's how you enact the repeat process of that.
That's you nailed it. That's the repeat process. So I love this strategy because it's very, very scalable. And, you know, right now I think I have 10, maybe even 12 properties somewhere in the method, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes we'll have a property or two that we're trying to buy, and it may take a couple of weeks to get it to close, right? And then we have a couple properties that we're rehabbing. I think right now I have 5 or 6 rentals being rehabbed. And then we have a couple properties that may be in the leasing stage, which, you know, maybe only takes a couple of days, maybe even a week or two. And then once it's rented and leased, we then send it over to the bank, and that may take, you know, anywhere from a couple of weeks to a couple of months to get refinanced. So this entire process, this strategy isn't something like a wholesale deal where you can do it in 2 or 3 weeks. It's typically going to take you a couple months, 2-3 months. If you're brand new and your long-term lender on the refinance side of things, you know, wants to give you seasoning, meaning that they want you to own the property or have it rented for a few months before they'll refi. Again, that's going to add a little bit of time. So, you know, I like to tell my students, hey, in the beginning, you should plan for, you know, 4 to 6 months, maybe even 5, maybe even 6, 7, 8 months, right? If you have no experience and you're brand new. But as you do these deals and you build relationships with your lenders, that will definitely shrink. And, you know, now I've done over 200 BRRRR deals in the last 4.5 years. And at this point, you know, most of my banks will waive the seasoning.
Sure. So
as soon as I get it rented, I send all the documents over to them. They order the appraisal, and 2-3 weeks later, we can refi.
Yeah, I think that's amazing, and that you did a very good job of laying out that process, and clearly you know what you're talking about in regards to that. I guess my questions come in. What does your buy box look like? How do you decide that this is the market, or this is the property, or this is a neighborhood? Are you basing that based off of the rents and then working back to what the purchase price and all of that kind of stuff is? Or are you just throwing it out there, and then once you get the leads coming in, deciding if that lead works for this strategy or doesn't?
That's a great question. So we don't just blanket market anymore. We used to. Yeah. Now the marketing is going to be a little bit more specific to the zip codes that we like, right? So, you know, yes and no, it kind of depends, but let's talk about the buy box. I think that'll explain a little bit more, right? So when we're marketing for deals, now, of course, deals can come in from networking and other areas that you might not have necessarily targeted. And we're going to play those one by one. Do they look good, or do they meet the buy box or not? But when we're marketing, we're typically marketing towards our buy box. What is a buy box? Let's start there. A buy box is basically just criteria that you like. That's it. It's so simple, right? So our buy box is very basic. I would say the first thing we say is, hey, is it within 30 minutes of our office? If it's not, probably not going to make for the best rental property for us. We like to keep our properties close to home. 30 minutes is a good radius, right? So if it's within 30 minutes of our office, yeah, we're interested. Next is we don't want to buy properties that are too low in value or too high in value, right? Banks won't lend typically less than 50 grand anyway.
Sure.
So buying a house 15 or 20 grand is not necessarily a good deal for me because I can't get the loan in the end on it anyway, unless the ARV is above 50. And then the same thing is, you know, I'm out of the Midwest. I'm in St. Louis. You know, a $450,000 property doesn't make for the best rental here in my market. So typically, you know, we're looking for properties that we can purchase somewhere between 75 and maybe 150, somewhere in that range on the purchase. We also have a rule where we don't like to buy weird or strange properties that are all weird and cut up and, you know, like, cause it's just going to be a hard property to rent and or sell. Sure. So it's got to be somewhat normal or standard. Also, I don't like to buy properties to fix and flip and or to rent that are less than 800 square foot. Mm-hmm. Now I will break that rule if it's, you know, 7.25 and it's a good house, right? But typically speaking, I want 800 square foot or more. Reason being is it's big enough to get a decent amount of rent. And we can often convert 2 beds into 3 beds if the home is big enough. I don't like buying shacks. I don't like buying 1-bedroom homes because the thing is a kitchen's a kitchen. Yep. If you have a 1-bedroom home and you got a kitchen and you got a 3-bedroom home and you got a kitchen, you know, maybe, it might be a little bigger, but you're still going to have to replace that kitchen at some point. And if your rent's only $500-600 a month, that's going to eat up a whole lot of months rent versus these alternatives. So minimum square foot, minimum bed at 2. And then other than that, I would say next would be, you know, we look at school districts, we look at crime. We don't want to be in the war zone. We don't want to be in the worst school districts. If there's high crime, we don't want to be there. And then last but not least, and there's a couple others, but this is the main buy box I'm explaining here. Last but not least is I don't want any property that rents for less than $800 a month. So I said 800 square foot is a minimum, but $800 a month is also a minimum. Reason being is I've had properties that rent for $450, $525, $6.25, whatever. And the quality of tenant that you have at that rate, at that rate, you know, at that low cost to rent is lower than if you have tenants that are paying 11, 12, 13, $1,500 a month. So ideally I go after the properties that have a higher rent because it's going to bring you a higher quality tenant.
Yeah, we found out the hard way on that for sure.
Yes, we did.
Same.
So I just have a follow-up question. So what does your team look like?
Great question. So we have a decent sized team. I have a partner. So it's me and my partner, Mike. We're the owners. And we have two acquisitions folks that work for us. They're 100% commission. We have a closing and transaction coordinator who's salary. We have a bookkeeper who's salary. And then we have 2 virtual assistants who are salary. And then we have a dispositions person who's also commissioned, just like our acquisitions folks. Mm-hmm. So they are friends. They are also other investors. They do their own thing. I encourage them to do their own thing. They're not exclusively with me, but if I need some help with acquiring a property or disposing a property, we'll give them a percentage of it. And then we can have some extra hands, you know, on deck. Sure. My partner, Mike, and I are pretty consumed with, you know, keeping the train on the track with the BRRRR method. And I love helping people. So I have a coaching program and I spend a lot of time helping my students as well. So, you know, decent sized team. We're nothing crazy. We do own a brokerage and have a couple agents, but very few. But for the most part, you know, there's probably about 10, 11 of us, give or take.
Okay. Sure. Can you tell us about the coaching program?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in the game, like I said, almost 18 years, and I've done most things, right? I've done the landlording, and that's my passion. Love that the most. Done the fix and flip, usually have 1 or 2 going at any given time. Done 700 plus wholesales over the years. So we talk about all of these things with our students, but the goal is to create financial freedom. I don't know about you guys, but I got into real estate because I wanted financial freedom. I wanted to make money while I sleep, right? That's why most people, they get in. They leave their 40-hour-a-week job to go work 60, 70 hours a week in real estate. And that's not a bad thing for a year or 2.
Sure. Right.
But that shouldn't be the goal. Like the goal is to create a business and a lifestyle. So that's really what I focus on with my students. Hey, if you want to do some wholesale deals, get your confidence built up, learn how to negotiate and market, all the power to you. Let's do it. Let's go do a bunch of them. And if you want to do some fix and flips, those are great too. But at the end of the day, both of those methods are transactional. And once you finish one of these things, you're going to have to start over and get the next deal. Well, rentals aren't as transactional. Assuming you can manage them properly and keep them rented, they're going to pay you every month. So that's what I love. I love the passive income. I love the cash flow. And the reason I like the BRRRR method so much is because it allows us to do two things. It allows us to acquire rentals with very, very little money, often no money in the end. That's the goal. But number two is it creates ongoing income. So if you talk about, most people's goal is to get into real estate to create financial freedom. That's what rentals will do for you. They'll create financial freedom. And most people don't even know this, but most people's goal, I'm telling you what most people's goal is that they don't even know, right? Sounds crazy. Most people's goal is eventually to get time freedom. It's not financial freedom. It's time freedom. Yeah. But you can't get time freedom without first getting financial freedom. So the goal for most people, including me, is I want to be able to do whatever I want, whenever I want. That's time freedom. But the best way to achieve time freedom is to create financial freedom. And the best way to do that is to own rental properties.
Yeah.
That's it.
Agreed. That's the secret.
Yeah,
absolutely. And your coaching program, what does the student receive from that? Is this like a course that they go through? Is this a mentorship? Is it you're helping them analyze deals? What is
all the above? Yeah, I give my students my cell phone number. We have a private Slack channel as well for communication and community. We don't do anything on like Facebook or anything like that. We have multiple courses that we give them on wholesaling and rentals and BRRRR method. And, I love helping my students. I joint venture and partner with them on deals from time to time. I'm happy to jump on, and talk to a seller or a cash buyer or a lender and help them negotiate or explain things, help them do due diligence. So yeah, all the above. I mean, again, my passion is rental property and it's BRRRR, and it's using the BRRRR method to acquire them. But I have students who are full-time and they don't have a ton of time and, resources to dedicate to marketing. So, hey, guess what? No problem. Let's get you on all the buyers lists of all the other wholesalers, and you can buy deals from them that are discounted and still make this work, right? So in the beginning, I talked about, I really love leverage. Here's why. The BRRRR method allows me to leverage almost every piece of the business. Mm-hmm. So I'm leveraging other people's money to get into these deals, right? I'm leveraging my team and my virtual assistants to find deals, as well as other wholesalers. I'd say a third of what we're buying at this point is from other wholesalers. And we're happy to pay a wholesale fee because we're piggybacking off all their efforts and marketing and follow-up and appointments and all that's a lot of work. We're piggybacking on that. So we love the leverage. Yeah. Oh my goodness. We love the leverage of other people bringing deals to us. Why wouldn't you? Right? Next, in the rehab stage, I don't swing a hammer. So I'm going to leverage general contractors and subcontractors to make that property look pretty again. And then I'm going to leverage property management to go get it leased and make sure the rents are coming in. And if somebody doesn't pay their rent and we got to get them out, they can deal with that. Right. And then last but not least, I'm going to leverage my local banks and credit unions and those relationships to refinance and pay back the private or the hard money lender and give me a long-term loan to where I can then focus on the repeat part. That's the most fun step is getting through one or two of these and realizing, holy cow, this wasn't that difficult. Yeah, there's a couple steps involved, but it really wasn't that difficult. And holy cow, after my refi, I either don't have any money invested in this rental property, or maybe I have a couple thousand. But hey, even at a couple thousand, that's a whole hell of a lot better than 20 or 30,000 like I did for 10 years, right? So I know what not to do, and I've made almost every mistake that I can think of. So my goal now is to show my students, teach them, hold their hand, mentor them out of, making the mistakes that I did, avoid that stuff. And let's focus on what's working now. And I can save my students 10 or 15 years worth of struggles and mistakes and just start doing what matters. So that's the goal.
Awesome. I think that's a great goal. And I'm sure that some of our audience is going to want to find out more about you, connect with you, maybe even check out your coaching program and stuff. Where should we send them if they want to get in better contact with you and find out more about what you guys have to offer?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So there's two ways. Number one would be go directly to my website. It's BRRRMethodMastery.com. So BRRR can have 3 R's or 4. And both of those domains work. Doesn't matter. So BRRRMethodMastery.com. You can learn more about the BRRRR method. You can learn a little bit more about me. And if you're interested, book a call with me and my team. We'd love to talk with you. The other way would just be go over to Instagram and look me up over there. You can shoot me over a DM and we can chat that way. My handle over there is my full name, David Allen Dodge. And the Allen is ALAN. So David Allen Dodge. And that's it, just on Instagram. And I would love to chat with whoever, has interest and or wants more information.
Awesome.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show. We can't wait to talk to you again. You got a lot of knowledge. And I think if anybody is listening to this podcast today, they're going to agree with me on that. You got a ton of info and you sell that BRRRR method really well. Yeah. It is, you can tell it is the way to go. Everybody that's successful in transitioning active income to passive income could learn a few things from that. So
yeah, absolutely. Our average at this point is $1,200 that we leave in a deal when we refi, but after it cash flows for 3 or 4 months, we've broken even on that deal. So how cool is it to be able to acquire an asset? And for those that don't know, assets put money in your pocket every month with little to no money. That's what the BRRRR method will do for you guys. So it's awesome. Thank you so much for having me. And I am so grateful to get this opportunity to spread some value to your audience and share some time with you today. So thanks again.
Thanks, David.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Jam. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information, check out our website, therealestatejam.com. Or find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Real Estate Jam. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email at therealestatejam@gmail.com. See you next episode.